it's Mindy from My Creative Scoop, and I'm so excited to be sharing another Copic marker coloring tutorial using the adorable stamps from My Favorite Things. Today I'm going to be using a new stamp set called Love Buds, and I'm going to be sharing with you how to add more depth and detail into your coloring using the gray Copics. So I've already stamped my images on my Copic Express It blending card using Memento ink, so let's get started. Okay, so we're going to be coloring these two flowers, and the first one I'm going to be using BG75, BG72, and BG11. The technique that I'm showing you today by adding the grays, which we're going to be using N5, you could do this with just about any coordinating color combination, except for you can't really use the grays to do this technique with pinks and yellows and oranges. Instead of using the N5, you'll have to use a brown like E33 or E35 or something like that. So just so you're aware, it will change the color if you use the N5 with pinks and oranges and yellows. So we'll save that for another video. So I'm going to start with my BG75, and we're just going to go in the center of the flower, the petals, right along the side. So you're going to want to come out just a little bit and a little bit in the center and a little bit more on the other side of the petal, because you want it to have that roundness appearance. So I'm going to do that all the way around. And now I'm going to take my BG72 and we're going to do the exact same thing, just filling in the flower petal just a little bit more. So you'll come a little bit higher along the sides and you'll come in a little bit more in the center. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and take the BG11 and I'm just going to kind of push that color back into that BG72. I want it to, since there's not a whole lot of room for blending on each of these petals, I want the tips to stay the lightest. So I don't want to really push any of that dark onto the tips. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and color in the center of my flower. We're going to use Y35. And now we're going to do the leaves. So I'm going to use G24, G21, and G20. And I'm just going to go down the center of the leaf to create that vein on all of the leaves. And then you also want to come on the bottom part of the leaf, so it gives a little bit of a shadow underneath. And now I'm going to do the same thing with my G20. I'm just going to push back in the opposite direction so it stays the lightest, filling in the rest of the leaf. And I'm going to go back with my G21, and I'm just going to kind of repeat what I did with the G24. Just come down along the center and along the bottom. Okay, so that's our first flower colored. Now we're going to repeat, so that way you can see the difference between the two side by side after we add the N5. So we'll get back out our BG75 and again go down the center and along the sides of each of the petals. All right, and now we'll get out the BG72 and come in just a little bit more. So out a little bit more on the sides and filling in the centers just a little bit more. All right, now we'll take the BG11 and push that color back, filling in the rest of the petal. Okay, so now we're going to take our N5, and I really want you, if you have a heavy hand, you might want to practice on another sheet of paper, but you really want to focus on just outlining the shadowed area of the stamp itself, of the image. So all I'm going to do is just come along the side, right up on this side of the petal, this side of the petal, and just a little bit right above the center of the flower. So if you want to do like tiny little flicks and then just outline the outline of the image. But just by adding that little bit of color really deepens the flower and will add a lot more depth. So I'm going to do that going all the way around. All right, so now we're going to take the BG75 and we want to pull some of that color out just so it blends softer into the flower petal. So just do the exact same thing as before, just lay down a little bit of color in that shadowed area where it starts to gather in the center of the flower. And now we'll take our BG72 and repeat. And since we already have color along the tip there, if you do kind of like a heavy flick, you could almost get it blended out. So you won't have to add as much of the BG11. So now I'm going to take my BG11 and just go back and blend out that harsh line between the two colors again. And now we'll fill in the center with our Y35. And then for the leaves, we'll do the same thing with G24 first. Go down the center of the leaf and then along the bottom. And then we're going to fill it in with the G20. And now I'm going to take my N5 and just at this little tip here of the bottom part of the leaf, I'm just going to make a little flick going into that line that we created with the G24, and then I'm going to outline the bottom part of the leaf. So just a tiny bit of color really goes a long way. And over here, added a little more. And now we'll blend that out with the G21. Skip in between since there's not a whole lot of room. That way we still have that dark to light contrast. So I'm just gonna kind of pull out that N5, blending it out a little bit more. If the leaf was larger, I would have went back over the N5 with the G24. But since there's not very much room there. All right, so there you have it. We have our two different or the two same flowers using the exact same colors, except for adding the gray to this one. So we're going to now color our second flower. Just, this is a little bit more of a detailed flower. So we're gonna do the exact same thing. So first we're gonna color this one with no N5, and then we'll color this one with the N5. So get out your BG75, and we're gonna go right behind this first flower, well, the one that's in front of us. So we want to deepen the one that's in the back so it looks like it's a multi-layered flower. So I'm just going to go right in that little V area right there, and I want to start coming out over this petal here, but not quite. And you want to color in sections, especially when you're adding the darker colors, even though we're not doing it to this particular flower just yet. We're going to do it to the other one. You want to color in sections just because you want to make sure that your paper stays wet so you're able to blend. So that's why I'm coloring this one first, and I'm going to do all my different layers of color before I start this one. Because once you get that N5 down, it starts to dry because it's so much thicker than some of the other colors, and then it will start to just lay on top of the paper and you won't be able to blend it out. So it's always better to color in sections. So now I'm going to take my BG72, and now I'm going to come around that whole petal behind it. We want to make it look like this part of the flower is really standing out from this back one, so that way it looks like it's casting a shadow onto it and gives it that 3D look. So now I'm going to take my BG11, and I'm just going to finish filling in my flower. And as you can see, I still have that border, and that's because there's a difference between the BG11 and BG72. So in order to get that to kind of smooth out a little bit, you'll take your BG72 and you'll just do a heavy flick going into that BG11, and it kind of helps camouflage it. And that way you still have that little bit of the BG11 just along the edge of the flower, so that way you still have that light to dark contrast. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and do the BG75 in the center. So just all along the center and up the sides, just like in the previous flower that we colored. And now with the BG72, we're just going to come in a little bit more. And then with your BG11, we're just going to fill in the rest of that petal. And then with the Y35, fill in for the center. And now for the leaves, again with the G24, we're gonna go down that center part of the leaf and then all along the bottom. And since this leaf is a little bit bigger, I'll go ahead and go back with the 21 now and do the exact same thing, filling it in a little bit more. And now with the G20, we'll just fill it all in. Okay, so now we're finished coloring this one without the N5. We're gonna go ahead and color this one now. So back with the BG75, we're gonna go ahead and start in that little crease right in here. And I really wanted you guys to see them side by side because it does make a huge difference rather than just adding, okay, now you see it and then now let's add N7 and then make you rewind it and do a split. That's just too much. It's so much better when you can see it side by side. So now I'm going to take my BG72 and come all the way around the petals. And then we're going to take the BG11 and fill the rest of it in. And on the previous one, we went back with the BG72 right now to get rid of that harsh line. But since we're going to be adding the N5 and then repeating with the BG75 and then the BG72, I'm going to skip that set just because we will get to it. We're just adding a few more steps between. So take your N5 and again, you want to focus on the outline part right here. So I'm just going to trace that little V area where those two lines kind of come together and make that point. My end's looking like I need a refill pretty soon. Okay, so now with the BG75, just gonna go over that N5 just to pull it out. And define it a little bit more. And already just by adding that, you can really tell that shadow that it's leaving. So it's already making this one look like it's standing that much more out than that one. Okay, now with the BG72, we're gonna go all the way around the petals again. And then again with the BG11, we're just gonna repeat filling all that edge in. I'm actually going to go back with my BG72 and just do that heavy flick just to try to erase that harsh line. A little bit more BG11 over here. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and do that whole thing all over again in the center. So take your BG75 and just in that center part, coming out on the sides of the leaves just a little bit. And then my BG72. And because I want these leaves right here, I want them to be lighter than this. And if we keep adding more layers of the BG11, it's just gonna get darker and darker. So I'm gonna leave those white. We're gonna go back and add the little bit of N5. I'm just gonna go a little tiny bit in the center. And then we're going to go back with the BG75 just a tiny bit. And then with the BG72, just little tiny baby flicks. And then now with the BG11, we're just gonna push that color back. And you can already see a huge difference between the two flowers. Let's go ahead and take our Y35 and fill in the center. And then the G24 right down the middle, and then all along the bottom. And repeat. And then the G21. And then the G20 to fill it in. And then we're going to take the N5 and just make a small little flick going down the center. You don't even want to bring it out that much because when we go back over it with the G24, it's going to pull it out. So just a tiny little flick wherever your marker stops, that's where you stop. You don't try to keep going back over it because then you're just going to make it really dark and excuse me. So now we're going to take the G24 and go over it, pulling out that N5. And then the G21. So pull it out just a little more. And then repeat with the G20. And I love the way that the leaves always come out when you add that little bit of N5 to it. So here we have it. We have our two different colors or adding the gray to the same color combination. I hope you enjoyed this month's tutorial. Have a wonderful day.